Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Chiefs Council. This is going to be our second video, and I have Elder with me again today, and he has something very interesting for us today, which we're going to be discussing. Okay, Elder, you want to say hello?
What's up, people?
Yeah, someone seems excited about today's. This is
Yeah.
his topic. He has. I think he's ready for this. Okay, so today we're going to be straying away from our previous, um, what we did previously, and we're going to be watching a video and going step by step and just, analyzing it and stating what we think, what we agree with, what we disagree with. But first, a little intro to the video. We will be listening to a speech given by current Ghanaian President William Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo during a press conference in Accra, Ghana, with French President Emmanuel Macron, who was making the last stop of his first African tour. The response was to a journalist's question on French aid, asking if France would increase its support for African countries that were not former French colonies. Now, this was his response.
I think there is a fundamental misstatement of the issue in the question. We can no longer continue to make policy for ourselves, in our country, in our region, in our continent, on the basis of whatever support the Western world or France or the European Union can give us.
So for this part of it, I totally agree with everything he said in that sentence. I this is something I have always said about, the African nations
Okay.
is we need to, like they say, pull yourself by the bootstraps. You have the resources, you have the manpower, you have the human resources, you have the intelligence, you have the people to make what you have work. People have done much more with much less.
Right.
And we do have those abilities, which he's going to go into also. We do have those abilities to make ourselves great. Okay.
Yeah.
And I totally agree with him.
I agree with you. I agree with your analysis.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
It will not work. It has not worked, and it will not work. Our responsibility is to charter a path which is about how we can develop our nations ourselves. It is not right for a country like Ghana, 60 years after independence, to still have its health and education budgets being financed on the basis of the generosity and charity of European taxpayers.
I did not know that's how it worked. Now, I don't know how old this video is. I'm going to find out
It's 3 years old.
later. Yes. So I didn't know that, you know, they do receive that much in order to run their educational system. And I feel that's bad. I honestly feel, like he said, 60 years after independence, with all the advancements we've had in science, in technology, in the educational system, and how rich the continent is, and even the country of Ghana, they are
Right.
still able, they still have to depend on France or charity from outside in order to maintain their educational system. Now, I'm talking about just the educational system. Not talking about healthcare. I'm not
Right.
talking about, yes, just the educational system. I feel it's appalling.
It is it is appalling. And it's quite unfortunate as well because and it's easy to see how that has continued over the years. It's so easy to receive aid because it's free money, right? So at least it's free money on the surface. It's not entirely free because these countries will benefit from the aid they provide. But for corrupt leaders, lazy leaders, it's easy to see why they were comfortable with that strategy. I don't know. Did you have the chance to look up how much aid Ghana receives?
Yes, I was able to look up some figures. As of 2015, 2016, Ghana received $66 million in aid from France. You can also see the top 8 donors to Ghana. And looking at the breakdown of where these monies were allocated, about 6% was used for education. The disturbing thing is looking at the distribution, you can see that Ghana did require aid um, in most of these sectors listed below, which explains the concerns this president has on their reliance on foreign aid. In 2017, the aid from France did decrease to about 27 million US dollars. I'm not sure if this is a result of a new government trying to move in a separate direction and trying to be less dependent on foreign aid, or if there's some other reason for this decline. I guess I would just try to be optimistic that they are trying to be less dependent on foreign aid.
By now, we should be able to finance our basic needs ourselves. And if we are going to look at the next 60 years as a period of transition, a period whereby we can stand on our own feet, our perspective has not to be what the French taxpayer decides to do with whatever surpluses that they have in France. They're welcome. They're appreciated. Whatever interventions that the French taxpayer through their governments make to us are appreciated. We're not going to lick a gift horse in the mouth.
Now, I like this part. He's bringing out a point in which we need to be free, kind of chastising foreign governments for butting their heads in Africa's problems, but he also in the end stated that he does appreciate, as he understands what they are trying to do and they are trying to help, which is something that I feel it's good that he stated here, because at a point in time it might be as if he's trying to find a way to to mobilize people to do better because they want to be against the people who have been helping them for quite a long time. I felt that was a good sentence, and he did go ahead throughout to also make those statements to make them understand that we do appreciate your help, but we'll be happier if we can do this ourselves, and we can.
Yeah, I think part of it was, of course, he didn't want to sound ungrateful because of foreign aid has benefited some African countries in the past.
Yes.
But at the same time, I really think this is more of a clarion call to African leaders and Africans as a whole, and maybe less targeted towards the European powers, because the European powers will keep coming to Africa's help or to Africa's assistance, right? But it's up to Africans and leaders and the systems to either A, negotiate better deals, or B, refuse those assistance that are being offered. So I think it was a very tactical approach where it was like, I'm grateful for everything you've done, in the past, and probably will still do, but it's time for us to chatter our own course. And I think for me, it resonated with me a lot, because think about the idea about teaching a man how to fish instead of just providing him fish, right? Because if you keep providing people handouts, you're never going to let them to be independent. And I think that has probably been the bane of Africa's stasis in development, right? Because we know that if we go cry for help, somehow the IMF or these foreign countries will come to our aid. But how long can we keep doing that? It's not a sustainable approach. And as we will listen in the video, he talked about why that's not sustainable and why we should feel confident to charter a new course.
Yes, yes. The only downside is, which we're going to still talk a little bit so that we can get quickly through this video, is he's not the first person to say this. That is what makes me so sad. But let's go ahead and keep reviewing his speech, okay?
And with all that has happened, it's still today the repository of at least 30% of the most important minerals of the world. It's a continent of vast, arable, and fertile lands. It has the youngest population of any of the continents in the world. So it has the energy and the dynamism. We've seen it. These young men who are showing so much resilience and ingenuity in crossing the Sahara, finding ways to go across with rickety boats across the Mediterranean to really, those energies, we want to have those energies working inside our countries.
I think you might have picked out where I also had a huge issue with his statement here. So you want to comment?
Okay, so personally, I felt that was a huge reminder of our capacity and our capabilities. We have huge resources that are that are highly valuable in the commodity market, right? That's the first thing. The second was the points he made about the age of the median age of Africans, right?
Yes.
Pretty young. I know for Nigeria, the median age is 18. So that's untapped human capital, right? And that shows that if Africans begin to look inward, right, the potential will be enormous. And then when you think about things that have happened in the last few years, where maybe some countries in Asia may no longer be favorable for more affordable labor, like you probably will argue that Africa is better placed to benefit from that shift, in the sense that we have the human capital. As he alluded to, we have people who have the energies to be involved if they have the opportunities.
Yeah.
And so if they can be trained and provided the right skill sets, you could probably see a shift from Asian markets to the African market. And that shift could probably propagate development over the next few decades. So I think it's important for us to know that we have the large human capital. And now the thing with the resources, is you can have all the resources, but if you don't have the market to make the most out of it, it's not useful. And so at least in the near future, the international markets will probably be the target. So there should be a lot of exports to those markets. However, if we can have more domestic inputs where local industries within Africa are responsible for the exports and are selling their materials on the commodity market for its true value, it will also help to generate some wealth and spur development. So I think this part of the clip was extremely critical in the message he was trying to advocate and propagate as well.
Yes. So I do agree with everything you just said. The only part of his speech at this point that I felt did not resonate the right message to me was using those who are crossing, the ingenuity of those crossing, taking huge risks to cross as an example of our of the kind of things we have to offer. Okay.
Yeah.
Most of the people who have a lot to offer do not use those routes. Okay, which he's going to talk about later in this video. those people are using the normal route to go to places of better opportunities. And I would have felt much better if he had mentioned, Ghanaians, Nigerians, South Africans, Egyptians, Moroccans, who are making waves overseas, who are making progress, who are, doing great things for other countries and not their home countries. And those people could have been doing that for their home country. That would have been a better way of explaining our ingenuity and our, what we have to offer than people going on rickety boats and, a large percent of them dying and, taking such huge risks. I do not blame them for what they do. It's out of desperation. It's just I felt he could have made a better example of our ingenuity and what we have to offer than just that.
I agree with you. I agree with you. I really think he he was probably trying to address the resilience associated with Africans. So I think in his mind, as he provided that example, he was using it to pretty much buttress his point that Africans have this deep resilience in them. But I agree. I mean, there probably could have been better examples. But for that example, I think that was the context he was trying to frame it as. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go on.
And we're going to have those energies working in our countries if we begin to build systems that tell the young people of our country that their hopes, their opportunity are right here with us. Migration and the movement of people is being presented in a manner which suggests that somehow it's a new phenomenon. There's nothing new about it. It's as old as man, the movement of people. And it has always been linked to the same thing.
I don't know where he got this, what evidence he has to say that this migration is new. Humans, it's actually way more now than it's ever been because of globalization and the ease of transport.
He said it's not new.
No, I know. He says the idea of it is not new.
Correct.
And he does not know where. You know what? I'm going to go play it back again and you listen and see what he said.
Migration and the movement of people is being presented in a manner which suggests that somehow it's a new phenomenon.
That's my statement I don't agree with. So he said migration is being presented as if it's a new phenomenon. I don't know who is presenting it. Now, the issue of countries trying to, stop people from coming in or trying to restrict people's movement in and out of their borders may be a new thing. I don't think so. But the idea of migration, I don't think it's a new thing. That has always been how humans have gone from place to place, from places of worse opportunity to place of better opportunity. It's always been like that. I don't know where what he's thinking of or what evidence he has to back this statement, but I honestly cannot think of anybody that is saying that this is a new thing. Now, the degree of migration, maybe, which has been going on with the increase in globalization and with the ease of transport, I honestly, I don't know.
So it's not. I believe what he was referring to, a particular notion where some Europeans probably feel the degree of migration from Africa is larger than it has been in the past. Maybe that's what he's alluding to. Like you and I can only speculate.
Yes.
But I mean, he did go ahead and pretty much say exactly what you just said. Migration has always been there. It's even in the ancient books of the Bible, you see that happen all the time.
Yes.
So it's been there.
Yes.
So, I think he was just referring to a popular belief, maybe not published somewhere, but maybe more. So what's the word now?
Anecdotal.
Anecdotal.
Yes.
Exactly. Anecdotal more than anything else. Yeah.
Okay.
The failure of where you are to provide you with an opportunity, so you move somewhere else. Those of you who are familiar with 19th century European history would know that the biggest wave of immigration in 19th century Europe, the latter part of it, came from Ireland and from Italy. Waves upon waves, generations of Italians and the Irish people left their countries to seek the American paradise, largely because Ireland was not working, Italy was not working. Today, you don't hear it. Italian young people are in Italy. Irish young people are in Ireland. We want young Africans to stay in Africa. And how are they?
All right. So I think this is extremely, I mean, this point he just talked about is extremely critical. It's in relation to what is happening, and we read about this all the time in Africa's most populous country, Nigeria. So many media outlets have have reported the brain drain occurring at rampant and rapid paces. At a rapid pace, sorry, right? So this speaks to his points. People will always immigrate to countries they feel will provide them better career opportunities. And that explains why the young Nigerian population, doctors, engineers, pharmacists, nurses, professionals that could stay behind and help improve the nation are choosing to depart for Australia, Germany, Canada, the U.S., because they feel those countries will, A, provide them with the resources to be better professionals, and B, will have much more economic opportunities. And so until countries like Nigeria sort themselves out, whereby graduates can, plan ahead while in school, they can see a future within the country, was going to be talking about the brain drain for the next 10 years. So I think his points was extremely important here to new leaders, having to, put out a plan, a 10-year plan, a 20-year plan that will ensure graduates in the future can see a vision of having a prosperous future in their nations, especially a country like Nigeria. So I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but personally, that thing or those few words resonated with me.
Definitely, I agree. I agree with that statement. It really did did deserve that applause. It's something that we are all guilty of, but also it's something that needs to be addressed. He did mention, my fear is, he did mention about the early days of Italy and Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
My concern is, how much brain drain can a country take? How much brain drain can a continent take? Especially nowadays where you have a lot of chain migration in which people are taking not just themselves, but also their whole family and extended family sometimes. How much can a country take? Especially when, they've been independent for a very long time with little or no progress. And sometimes even a backward pedaling of their progression compared to other countries who started at the exact same foot, which he's going to talk about right now.
Yeah.
So I totally agree, and it's something that every African leader, both in the grassroots level all the way to the federal level, needs to listen to and needs to use as their platform.
And it means that we have to get away from this mindset of dependence, this mindset about what can France do for us. France will do whatever it needs to do for its own sake. And when those coincide with ours, tant mieux, as the French people say. But our main responsibility as leaders, as citizens, is what we need to do to grow our own countries. What are the institutions that work, that will allow us to have good governance, to have accountable governance, to make sure that the monies that are placed at the disposal of leaders are used for the interests of the state and not for those of the leaders, to have systems that allow for accountability, that allow for diversity, that allow for people to be able to express themselves and contribute to fashioning the public will and the public interest. Our concern should be with what do we need to do in this 21st century to move Africa away from being cap in hand and begging for aid, for charity, for handouts. The African continent, when you look at its resources, should be giving monies to other places. We have huge wealth on this continent, in our own country of Ghana. And we need to have a mindset that says, we can do it. Others have done it. We can also do it. And once we have that mindset, we will see it as a liberating factor for ourselves. We keep talking about how it was that Koreans, Malaysians, Singaporeans, who got their independence at the same time as us. We're told of that at the time of Ghanaian independence, per capita Ghanaian income was higher than that of Korea. Today, Korea is part of the first world. So is Malaysia. So is Singapore. What happened? Why did they make that transition? And 60 years after independence, we are where we are. Those are the matters that should concern all of us as Africans, as Ghanaians. And not, when I say so with the greatest of respect to the French president, I think that the cooperation of France is something that I am, as you know, a strong friend of France. I am Francophile. So I don't have any difficulty with that.
This is something that it always rubs me the wrong way. I know this is a president who is trying to be politically correct, okay? He started a statement that was very, very good, in which he compared African nations who had their same independence with other countries who have gone way ahead of us, even though we were, either at the same level or better. Mm-hmm. And he says we need to go and look for the reasons why. At this point in time is the time he should have made his voice known on the reasons he thinks. He's not a young man. He's a man who has had experience in politics, who has interacted with other governments, who understands how things work behind closed doors. He does not need to name names if that's what he's worried about, but stating things that are the reason is very important. The way he presented this message is like, we do not know and we need to go and find out, but we do know. We do know corruption is a horrible thing that has eaten deep into our system. We do know that poverty is a horrible thing, which is all based on this. We do know the greed of our fellow men is something that has eaten up into all these things that has made us stay back. Corruption is one thing that till today, everybody knows Africa for. African countries, African leaders. We are unable to maintain infrastructure because of this. We are unable to develop anything and sustain it for long periods of time because of this. Even those resources that we get back from other countries, we are unable to adequately implement anything with those funds because of this issue. I wish he had made that statement, put it in the public. I know it may cost him a little bit politically, but I felt this is something he should have said. And this is me saying it from the comfort of my room, but it's something I felt that should have been a powerful message. Now it's not a new message, but would have been a powerful message at this point in time.
So, so you think corruption is the only reason?
No, I think corruption is one of the main reasons. Okay.
Wouldn't you say Malaysia is corrupt?
No. So, like I always explain to my friends, he always mentions this, comes back, and I always say everything that is bad in this world exists in every country. It is the degree of that thing that makes you show how bad it is. It's just like coronavirus or the COVID-19. Every country, 184 countries have COVID. For the degree that they have it determines how bad it reflects on the external world. Okay, the amount of it you have, how badly your people have, what measures you are taking to hold it back is, to me, is as good as corruption. The more you do not address the situation, the more likely you are to have persistence. It's just like the swine flu epidemic we had back when public health was horrible, okay? Because they did not know how to take the necessary steps, or they did not have the resources to implement those steps, made it a million times more horrible than it is right now. 50 to 100 million people died. Exactly the same thing that corruption does. If you do not address it and bring it down to the bare minimum as much as you can, the more you bring down corruption, the more things that corruption do hinder progress. And we can see that from a lot of countries like Nigeria, like you always mention. Projects do not make it. Health educational system is breaking down. Nothing that any leader tries to put, even the few that try to make any progress, they do not move forward at all because of this issue. Which people usually make the most progress are the private institutions, because they need to do well in order to make profit, because they know if they do not do well, they will never make profit. But the government is not held to that standard. The government standard is, people will vote for me if I do well. But if I can bribe them, or if I can be corrupt and get away with doing any work and still be in power, I would do that instead. I am not saying there is no corruption in other countries. I'm just saying the degree and the kind of impact it has on your own people is what pains me the most. Is you are doing this to hurt your own people, and it's horrible.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I agree. I agree that corruption occurs at unprecedented levels in many African countries. You know, I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach and say corruption alone isn't what has held um, Africa back, and maybe we can use Nigeria as a case study here. Uh, you know, corruption has definitely played a significant role, but it alone, I, I believe corruption plus short-sightedness has has they've combined to have this synergistic effect to makes the conditions worse in those countries. So what do I mean by short-sightedness? Think about a corrupt leader whom corruption is fueled by greed. Would you agree?
I agree.
So he or she, I'll say he because most rulers in Africa have been males. So he probably wants all the resources, all the power for himself. But like you alluded to, no empathy for the people who he governs. Okay?
Yes.
No idea of pursuing a legacy. And so the embezzlement occurs, the bribery, the kickbacks, but when all these monies are gathered, it's shipped overseas. Okay? It's shipped overseas and it's stashed in different countries outside of Africa. Now imagine if, for example, Nigeria would have had leaders that were corrupt, but invested the money within the country, built hospitals, or helped shape the healthcare system, maybe channel some of the proceeds to your pockets, but still, create a robust healthcare system where people can receive high quality healthcare, okay, or develop systems to generate electricity, even if it means proceeds will go into their pockets. So my point is, it's corruption alone didn't just set us back. It was just corruption plagued by laziness as well as short-sightedness. Because there are many countries that are corrupt that still prosper to some degree. They could do more, but they are not in a dire situation like most countries in the sub-Saharan Africa. And so that's what um, I'm trying to say here. Like, I think it's a combination of these two factors: corruption, and at the same time, a lack of short-sightedness and foresight that has plagued us. I don't know
Yeah.
what you think about that.
Yes. So the only thing I'm gonna push back a little bit is not actually something I don't agree with you, is an idea of investing in your being corrupt as horribly as it happens and trying to see if you can keep that money in your home. It's most of these people want to keep their money in a place that they feel is secure, and they know their country is not secure. It's something, it's like you not equipping your hospital to handle serious cases or serious cases of illness. And then when you fall ill, you would rather go to a place in which you know you're going to get better, which is not your hospital that you built, because you know how horrible your hospital you built is. Okay? They those countries that are corrupt, but not to the degree that it affects the progress of their countries, no matter how slow it goes, they are always progressing forward. And another thing is the more educated people become, the more literate people become, the more resources they have to live on, the more economically stable they are. And I'm not talking about the middle and upper class. I'm not talking about those who are earning your minimum wage and those who are living maybe paycheck to paycheck, but
Yeah.
enough to make sure that they can have a life. Crime falls. All the studies have shown that crime falls, population density falls. You have improvement in certain outcomes that in the long run are positive. But if you do not make that slow step forward, there
Right.
is no way you can even trust the system that you are in. Therefore, you will go to other systems that are working, and therefore, like you said, take all the resources that you have here to those areas. And one that really, really hurts me, which I will try and see if I can get some concrete videos or an article, that is the way we lost our refining capabilities in Nigeria. So our refining capabilities in Nigeria that we lost is the I, it's something that I found very alarming. The only thing that it gives us, what, 80-90% of our of the money we need to do whatever we need to do, is something we could not even maintain.
Right.
It really brings tears to my eyes.
Right. But Chief, speaking about the lack of foresight, um, would you then, so going into that, or let's go with the example where a corrupt leader or corrupt leaders embezzle funds.
Yes.
Okay. So your argument is they're taking it out because they do not trust the system, right? They do not have faith in the system.
Because the system is corrupt, and this is just the system is corrupt, and you keeping that money in the system, there are other corrupt people who are going to take advantage of you. It's a thing of how's the way is, there
Yeah.
is no there's no honor among thieves. That's the way so there is no honor among thieves, and that is exactly the way it is. It's just like you having an idea, in just like the way you have an idea of what you wanted to do with your life, but you knew that where I am right now, I know I cannot achieve it. It's just going to be a vicious cycle, and you left. The same way they know that what exactly is happening to them is happening to other people, and they do not trust the system, and they are not trying to fix it. Just like you said, short-sightedness. They are not thinking ahead of what of my kids, what of my grandchildren. If this
Exactly.
is happening to me, is there any way I can make sure my kids do not go through the same thing? Because there is something that, we say back in our hometown, which you should be familiar, is a father always makes sure that his son does better than he does. That is the goal of a father. And that should be the goal of every leader in Africa. That
Yeah.
the person coming after you is able to do more than you can, so you pave the way for them to do that.
Yeah. So going to my point, right? So the
Yes.
case where, again, with Nigeria, you have about 180 million people. And so if the corrupt leaders had any element of a vision or something to do with legacy, isn't it possible that some of those hefty embezzled funds could have been put in place to develop or even create new hospitals, as an example, okay, where at least the a portion of the population or the populace can be catered to. Now it's a and maybe even to have links and benefit from the proceeds. So that's what I'm referring to. Shouldn't that have been something they could have looked at? You know,
I,
the same
I,
thing with the banks, the same thing with the hospitals, the same thing with the power distribution companies. Couldn't they have come together, put funds into these sectors to get them powered up and maybe even profit from it? At least for now, it will have generated jobs, helped to reduce the poverty level and helped, and now people, young graduates wouldn't have to leave the shores of the land.
I agree with you. Now, this is in an environment where they are, like you said, have foresight on what they want to achieve over the next 20 to 50 years. These are people who are thinking way ahead. But like you said, greed makes you think in the short term. And all
Yeah.
you can think is yourself and your family. And if you're going to, for example, build a hospital, now you grew up back home, and you know what happens to most of the beautiful things, what our stadiums or the huge hospitals that are not private, that you buy a new equipment or you build a new hospital and you give it 5 years and you can't recognize that it's not being maintained. That is that rot, I'm telling you. They do not trust themselves even in their own country because they know that nothing works, and they do not put in any effort to improve it. Okay? It's and this works from the leaders, the justice system. Nothing that is supposed to create, you know, roadblocks to all these horrible things that impede development work.
Yeah.
Or even if they do work, they work horribly with a lot of holes in their systems and a lot of breakdown. And with that, you cannot sustain a nation or a group of people or a community. It's always going to break down. And they know it, and they don't want to take that risk of investing, putting their blood and their sweat and getting little or nothing back apart from the joy or the satisfaction that you have paved the way for the whole country to move forward. People do not have that pride. That is my concern. Most people do not have that pride and in their own country to do that. And for some reason, we leave Africa, go to other countries where things work, and we give them our sweat, our blood, and make them go move forward, while our countries keep on regressing and regressing. It's really sad.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about our own propulsion, what we need to do to get our countries to work so that we can create the conditions that would allow our young people to forego this hazardous effort to get to Europe. They're not going there because they want to. They're going there because they don't believe they have any opportunities in our countries. So that should be our focus. And I believe that with that if we change that mindset of dependence, that mindset which is contingent on aid and charity, we would see that in the decades ahead of us, the full flowering of the African peoples would take place. And that new African personality that was talked about at the time of our independence will become real and imminent in our times. That's what I'm saying. I hope that I'm not upsetting the questioner or even some of my friends who are here. But these are my strongly held beliefs. And that is the reason why I've adopted as the slogan of my presidency, of my period of the Supreme Office of Ghana, that we want to build a Ghana beyond aid, a Ghana which is independent, which is self-sufficient, that is capable of standing on its own feet and building its own life. We can do it if we have the correct mindset to do so. Mr. President, those are my contributions.
So that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a good video to listen to, and I feel it's something that unfortunately is going to go into deaf ears, because this video, like you said, is 3 years old, and yeah, and that's all it is. People comment, people like, people share, and that is it. Okay.
But the great thing is it only needs to fall on one good ear, right? So sometimes it takes just one person to galvanize a whole lot of people. So, I mean, yeah, I didn't mean to interject there, but
That's fine.
it's a case where, it's good. It's very refreshing hearing this from a prominent African leader. I personally feel he was very articulate, very impressive. He's not doing a bad job as well in Ghana.
Yes.
So he's also walking the walk, right? He's not just talking. You look at the country's response to the pandemic, and I believe I checked yesterday, and they have conducted about 140,000 tests.
Yes.
So I mean, and they've conducted much more tests than a country like Nigeria. So I mean, I think Ghana is progressing, and when you have leaders like this, who speak and who have this conviction and the vision, it's no coincidence that they are on the path they're currently on.
So I do believe Ghana is on they've always been ahead of us. And watching their response to the COVID-19 is also another testament to how good they are. You hear news of them using even drones to deliver tests, and that's impressive. So I agree. I feel this is something that hopefully more than one ear picks up, because I'm on the other school of thought that one person cannot change the world. It has to be a group of people. The idea may start with one person.
Yeah.
But if a group of people do not come forward, because everyone needs support, everyone needs an army, everyone needs a group of people to make those changes. One person cannot do it. It's not possible.
One person starts, right? He starts, and then, depending on what it is, it could have a cascading effect and have a ripple effect and bring about a large change. Like you look at the United States, part of the industrialization all began with the guy who built the trains, Vanderbilt, right? It started with him, and then the Rockefellers on the
Fords. Yeah.
JP Morgan, and then afterwards the Ford. So, it has that, it's a cascade, and then, it's step by step. One person has a vision, and then people else follow, and then it inspires others to do more. So that's what I'm hoping.
Yeah, but unfortunately, I feel nowadays it's where things work, that those things can actually make progress, because I don't know. I just have this. If I don't have electricity, the things I'm able to do are limited. If I don't have, yeah. So I agree with you. I agree with you. We need people who have ideas and who can be voted into power, because power for some reason seems to corrupt a lot of people.
Right.
And nowadays, it's most likely godfatherism that is done, in which people who are corrupt, train people or breed people who are going to have the exact same mentality as them. And that is just this vicious cycle. And the masses, what can they do? We're the happiest people on earth. What can we do? Just, okay.
Yeah, I would like to suggest that maybe not immediately, but at some point we can talk about the role of the private sector to
Okay.
develop countries in sub-Saharan Africa, and we can use a few hubs as an example, because I think it's an important aspect of development, because we see a large amount of remittance made to a country like Nigeria from diaspora. Part of the money that is brought into the country is from the diaspora, and it's important to see how some of those funds are being used to develop the country. So I think we should think about having that as a potential topic in the coming weeks.
Okay, great.
But this was, as always, thank you for having
Yes.
me.
Yes, this was really good.